Okay, hey, it's Bruce with Targeted Wealth Creation back at you on Saturday afternoon. All right, let's jump in here. There were no, well, I shouldn't say there were no trades. They had already rolled on Thursday, which is somewhat unique. Some weeklies and some synthetics, right? They rolled out of one strike price and into another. We got out of the 230 and went into the 260. Well, lo and behold, on Friday, Fridays are still important. It's the end of the week. They got to change things. So before I show you even the interdays, let me go over what the stock did. So it went down from 257 to 244, right? So it was down 5.03, and we had CONY down 4.28. So, again, it didn't do as bad, about 80%, the 100% pullback that coin had. All right, so there were, now I want to show you this, right? There were a sell and a buy to close. So this is when you're closing out, right? They had just opened, I think, what, 25,685? Yeah. And because you see the 25,185, and that had been 685, and they closed out 500 of those. And they bought it for 325, and they sold it, they sold it for 325 and they bought it back for 365. It resulted in a 20,000 loss, right? So they collected 162.5. They had to pay 182.5 and they lost 20. So this is an oddity, but it happens sometimes. They actually moved up 325, 675, right? But they needed money to pay out their distribution. So this was a function of them doing those kinds of moves. And let me show you the synthetic on the 260, where they had the 25685. We have a minus here, right? We still use our same pluses and minus whether we're selling and buying, right? But we're losing those 500. And what that did was we had 9,580 that we collected because the puts we sold so much more for than what we had to buy the calls. So that gave us 9.58 million in our piggy bank. However, moving, and that's because we were underneath. Now we're still underneath, but when we reverse the position and we take them off, we dropped 250,000 or so. So not a big deal, but, just making you aware of it, right? And so this took us down from our previous number, a couple 100,000. Not a major deal, right? So let's look at other things. So they had already cleaned everything up for the most part in rolling all this stuff. So let's look at how it looks, and I told you they added 675,000 shares. So let's look at holdings and let's look at weekly. So weekly is pretty simple, and then I'll go in because I like what I'm doing with holding to show you this stuff so much better. Here's the weekly calls. Don't like that they're all bunched here, right? I learned a new term from Jay, but I had heard it before in the industry. We say spread out, or use multiple strikes. Well, Jay mentioned in an interview that it's laddering, right? Did they ladder? So in this case, they didn't ladder. They didn't put additional rungs on the ladder up and down, right? So I can see how that term applies. There's a few terms that would apply. So the good news is with them dropping down, both Misty and CONY really, the market just, and Bitcoin really went down, the last half of the day. So the good news is we've got 14.68% that we can move up, right? And so we've already collected 55% of that. And here's where we are. This is actually down, right, from the 250 something, and this is down. So those need to be updated. This is up to date, and it's relatively flat. Okay. So let's look at the all. This should be really your all-encompassing. This should be showing you what's going on, right? So we collected everything we wanted to collect last week on Thursday, right? Wins, loss, I can't even remember at the moment. You know, one of them was the big loser, right? And they had to roll to get the cash, so I think it was the weekly calls. But that all happened on Thursday, which is somewhat unique, but it happened. So here's the current status. So they got the 614. They're all, you know, bunched into one strike price, not laddered. And they actually took the 500 off. We just explained that. But we've captured, you know, by collecting 8.1 million, they only would have to buy it back at 3.6. Now we got a whole week of trading to go. But that's your summary. Here's the close. So we're saying that we closed at 21.69. I think it's a heck of a buy here, folks. I really do. And this is the fair value, 21.66, right? Our share count went up 2.53. And this, you know, even though I keep the graph, it's the difficulty here is, and they don't roll strikes that often. So for 5 or 6 weeks, I can show you how it's moving over the last 3 or 4 days, and then graphically it looks even better. The problem is now they're in a different strike, right? So my 7 data, you know, and my 6 data are really working off a different base. So, and maybe this didn't even roll into this date. So that's kind of unique. Don't worry about that. I'm not going to change it or do away with it. I'm just not going to focus on it until it's got the same consistency. So I think that's what I have for you. I'm trying to make this brief. I don't think anything else in here. Somebody had asked me one time about IVs. I think it was Mike G. So again, I try and show them in here. Here's the 52 week. And I think on one of them, I didn't have this 52 week, right? So I need to go add that. It could be on Misty. It could be one of the other. So this is, you know what you guys understand what IV is, right? IV is typically, we always show 30-day. This is a 30-day number. If you want to look at the range, right? So what has this been? Well, it's been 59.7 to 116.5. Implied volatility, just think of volatility. We all know what that is. How volatile is he? How volatile is she, right? Do they blow up at the simplest, you know? So think of it like that. It volatile. I mean, if you look at a chart, does a stock trade at a $7 stock trade between 6 and 8 for 6 months? Well, that kind of tells you the IV is probably going to be 10 or 11, right? It's not going to have much premium, even if it has options. And you want something that's got gusto, right? It moves up aggressive, it moves down aggressive, right? And that creates the premium that the income funds look for. So that's why we talk about it and we show it, right? And Misty is the king of that, right? Misty is really, you know, good. And Coinbase has been, because the underlying, because it's moved up some 300%, right? Because it tracks BTC to some degree, although I think MicroStrategy and Misty are just more even aligned with Bitcoin. Because coin is an exchange, it can do all crypto. And I'm not so much of a bull. It's not my expertise, the meme coins, the shit coins, you know, all that kind of stuff. I tend to just look at BTC. I love Michael Saylor. I love MicroStrategy. I love Coinbase because I think it's a good company. They own, I think they're the 7th largest holder of Bitcoin, of BTC, right? So positives around there. Let's finish this up. I got more videos to make, so let's do payment. So how do we set? Well, we still got this fantastic synthetic, right? Because we did a lot of things to make this happen. This hurts us, right? Where we lost our rear end on the short calls. So now my memory is coming back, you know, painful memories. But hey, you know, nobody's going to argue. If you saw the Jay interview recently, he again acknowledged that, CONY is going to come up and be a 12-month, very likely in August, return $20, right? Which is where all the funds start. He also said, and I'd already started alluding to this, that Misty could be a 7-month payer back, right, of its $20 inception price, which you can understand, right? Add 412, 252, and 303, and you're like 965 if my memory serves me. Well, that's in 3 months, right? So give it 7, and it could get there. I'm not saying, look, it's not a forecast. It's not an absolute prediction, but it's a strong likelihood, right? So don't always think NAV reduction. If you pick the wrong time, you can get NAV reduction. If we run up on Bitcoin to 125 and all the charts and everything indicate that we're going to go into, a pretty aggressive decline. But again, guys ask me this all the time, and that's another video I got to make. Is it over? No, it's not over. If I try to assess the adoption and the limited restrictions of Bitcoins and the $1 trillion that's been put into the security so people can't hack it. It's only the crooks like Sam Friedman and Genesis and some of this stuff that went on that it's got a minute drag on Bitcoin, but not that much. So again, this is a rant. If you want to be done, I will just do it, and then I'm going to talk a little more on that because sometimes it's important. So we've got a $1.57 loss here, but even considering that, because the difference in the two numbers, we've got a $1.21 at a very early stage for CONY. So congrats, fund managers. Way to hang in there, and let's have a good CONY month. Okay, so be done with that. Now, people that want to tune out and got what they needed, you're done, right? Because I get a lot of people saying, can you do a 3 or 4 minute? I can't really do a 3 or 4 minute. It's not worth my effort to be monetized and all that. I could do 4 videos of, I could do 4 summaries of 3 minutes and just do a real quick summary. But then I got to make longer videos too, that for the people that do want the detail and want to hear some of the rants and prediction. So what I was trying to say is, again, I'm always saying this. You people are, well, should I buy this one? Should I buy that one? What are going to be bulls, right? Did you know that they're ready to launch chips, right? What is chips at YieldMax? CHPS, okay? That is the bear NVIDIA. Now, I know most people say, are you kidding? AI is going to the moon and it's going to be this kind of $1 trillion market cap in NVIDIA. Hey, NVIDIA is 1,200 going to 120, right? I did a video on the split for anybody that didn't know, okay? So let's say it's at 120. It could run to 180. Nobody has a day-to-day. But does it feel toppy to me? Do I feel like in September we're probably going to turn down in the NASDAQ 10, 15, 20%? I do. That's just my bias on the market at the moment. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. I'm not always right, by any means. But it feels toppy. And why do I say that? Because the consumers are tapped out. There's a lot of inflation and their struggle to get it down. And that hurts. Deficit spending. Anybody who watched my video on NVIDIA, and I talked about what is $1 trillion and what does it relate to seconds. So back to Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin runs to 125, okay, I then become a bear technically in technical analysis that it's run up where it's going to run up. I think it's got maybe $1 million as a target. But it might be 5, it might be 8, it might be 10 years. Why? Because it's got an adoption, right? It will be digital money. It will be digital energy. There will be things transacted in a Bitcoin because it's limited. It's a store of wealth. It's limited in what they're, and everybody goes, well, yeah, they say, but look at all the other crypto. Well, I'm not talking about all the other cryptos. They aren't limited, right? And it's a lot of nonsense. There's some good underlying technologies that'll emerge, as Solana, Ethereum, but I'm not going to focus all of my energy and knowledge into understanding which coin, which time. I want to go with the people that you can't knock off Bitcoin. The governments really can't create it. It's an irrefutable ledger. It is documented. They know where everything is. That's what's dangerous if governments use it in the wrong way. You want it decentralized. You don't want all your stuff in the government. So and it took me a long time. It took 100 hours of just listening and reading and studying it, because I was I was a gold bug in the 2000s and was able to retire and build up my wealth to a couple $1 million, and then trade and invest that to generate my retirement income. But I'm already collecting Social Security in addition, right? So there's some taxation things I have to do, and IRAs and stuff, but those are all good problems to have. Okay, so nothing is as simple as I say. I try and answer, but there's always a caveat to the answer. There's always, well, I have to see, right? Anybody that tells you they know exactly where it's going, I think precious metals are going to take off. Why? Because they're very, very undervalued to the prices of the metals. So they're going to play catch up, right? So the bottom line on these funds, stay bullish. If you're bullish, own the fund. If you just want a high yield and you have no idea, then listen to somebody who knows more. But on the other side, if you are bullish and you've studied it and you like it, and you also want an income fund as part of your portfolio, then this is an excellent Misty, CONY, even YBIT, right? It's new and that kind of stuff. So that's what I got to say, and I'm going to do a detailed video on where I see BTC going and why and what are the factors. And so what I plan to do, final thought, is on any of these funds that I'm talking to you about, I wouldn't say recommend because I'm not a financial advisor, but show you that I'm in them and you want to follow me, then I want to offer you at times hedging strategies, whether it's a bearish income fund, whether it's a bearish ETF that doesn't even pay a dividend, to offset possible NAV reduction. You will get NAV reduction if we go 125,000 on Bitcoin, okay, especially like on Misty, right? So what's Misty then? I don't know, 45, 55, 60, okay? So Misty could turn around and go back to $30. So if somebody came in and said, oh, this is a great dividend payer, oh my gosh, it's 170% annual yield, and they buy it at $58 and 3 months later it's 30, they're pissed off, right? So you want a DCA in, you want a low cost, you want to time your buys, you want to understand where you are even in a bullish cycle. So it pulls back to 70, right? And it's 6 months of pain and up and down, getting down there. And then it slowly starts moving up, and over the next 9 months or year, it's up at whatever the next technical target with Fibonacci extensions, and it's up at 220, right? So you got a bull market. I mean, but nothing goes straight up. That's a blow off top, right? And that's what appears. I don't think Nvidia's dead, or Nvidia. I just think that it's approaching its near-term top and will decline. Is it just a 25, 30%? And you want to buy it again when it does? Yeah. But is that when you want to throw all of your one-time purchase into Nvidia and then come out and raise hell with YieldMax because you lost a bunch of money in your NAV, right? Because they're going to pay a dividend. So that's what I'm trying to say. These are great funds for income distribution. Yes, sometimes you can do better in the underlying when you're right in there. And I'll talk about some of that. So I'm just trying to share with you what I think my value, besides interpreting what these income funds and how they're paying out and how they're collecting. So that's my value add. So if you see this and you like it, I know I get just a lot of my subscriber, but I'm doing some videos to reach out to others and if they tune into this. new people. Okay, Bruce out. Peace. Have a great weekend. See you next time. I'm not a financial advisor. It's not financial advice. It's for fun and entertainment. Bye.